Geek Buddies fans. Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode here from the
Pip Geek.
Huzzah, buddies!
Hey! I don't know.
There you go. Hey, there we go. Thanks so much for joining us for a brand new episode here today. Another week of geekery is on par for us to talk about here on the show. We're going to jump into so many things like trailers. We're going to get some Obi-Wan Kenobi viewership numbers, some Top Gun Maverick box office numbers. But our main topic is going to be all the stuff that dropped at Star Wars Celebration and getting our conversations and our reactions rather in conversations about those out there for you all to enjoy. But let's introduce ourselves first. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, writer, producer, and host here on the Outlaw Nation and the Geek Buddies. Mike.
I am Michael Vogel. I'm a writer and producer of animated TV shows and movies.
Shannon.
And this is Shannon McClung. I'm an animation writer and a television actor where you may have seen me on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, Silicon Valley, and the Goldbergs.
Someone had a costume fitting tomorrow. We might be seeing you again in something coming up soon that we can't quite say yet, can we? Oh, all right, fair.
I wonder what it is.
Doing his best Zola over there. What is that all about? But we are going to get into everything. We just wanted to give a big shout out also to Carbon Health, carbonhealth.com. Go and head on over there to that website. They support and sponsor us here on the Geek Buddies and the Outlaw Nation. You got any healthcare situations going on? You've been thrown around a planet and landed in some burning refuse there that you need to get healed from. I would suggest you go to carbonhealth.com and take a look. You even download an app. They have a dock in your pocket where you can take a look and see if there's any Carbon Health centers around you or online in order to have any of those questions answered. They got 100 locations all over the country, 50 plus locations in California, and they're doing COVID testing and selling COVID packs. And certainly those numbers are going up. Certainly Star Wars Celebration people have been getting COVID diagnoses ever since they've left that facility. So there you go. But anyway, all right, let's get into things. Let's get into, first of all, thank you if you've been a fan for a while and been coming to hang out with us every week. If you're new, thanks so much for taking a chance with the Geek Buddies. This is the way it works. We each bring up a news topic, talk about it for a little bit. That's 3 topics. Then we take a mini break and jump into our main topic, which is, as I said, the Star Wars Celebration news. All right, Mikey, I think you start us off.
All right. Well, the first news story is an easy one, but a big one. Obi-Wan Kenobi, everybody's favorite lost Jedi, has set records on Disney Plus. Disney Plus released a statement earlier this week confirming that Obi-Wan Kenobi has become the most watched Disney Plus series globally, based on the number of hours streamed in the debut weekend. Now, not 100% clear if we're just counting the first episode or the first 2 episodes, which would sort of give them like a double dip as opposed to the shows that just premiere with 1 episode. But either way, it's a huge number for Disney Plus. And in addition to Obi-Wan Kenobi just having huge viewership numbers, Disney also revealed that all the other Star Wars titles, or a lot of the other Star Wars titles, like tripled in viewership after Obi-Wan Kenobi. So in addition to a bunch of people checking out the further adventures of Obi-Wan Kenobi, as soon as they did that, everybody jumped into a bunch of other Star Wars. I would assume watching a little bit of Revenge of the Sith, probably a little bit of A New Hope, and probably a whole lot of Clone Wars and Rebels. So by any stretch, thus far, it's been a huge hit for Disney Plus. And gentlemen, what do you think? Is this a surprise? Are you shocked? Are you bewildered? Are you baffled? What are you?
How do you think I feel? What do you say, Shannon?
I mean, I'm not surprised, but the fact that it is the most watched premiere based off of ours, I mean, it just goes to show you that the idea that they first had several years ago to bring Ewan McGregor back in an Obi-Wan centric project was the right call, that people really wanted to see him return to this character. You know, there's a chunk of the fan base that wasn't a huge fan of the prequels, despite the fact that they loved certain aspects of it. And one of those aspects that, for me, I think was universally praised was Ewan McGregor's turn as Obi-Wan, and having him get another at bat when he finished Revenge of the Sith. Like, he probably thought that was it, I'm done. And so the fact that he's getting to return to this character, getting to play in a realm of the Star Wars universe, or a part of the Star Wars universe timeline that really hasn't been explored in live action, I imagine that was very, very exciting. And the excitement was matched by the fans. And even though, like, the three of us, like, we were a little divided on what we thought of it, the first 2 episodes, Well, no, that's literally what happened. And we were divided on what we thought of it.
Some of us were right and some of us were wrong.
Oh my God.
You may not have agreed with my opinion, but so that actually makes what I say correct. We were divided. But even the folks that maybe were not the biggest fans of those first two episodes, I would have to think that they're going to watch them to the end, because I'm certainly going to watch them to the end. And this next episode, or the one that dropped today, I mean, I've already watched it 3 times now. So that should give you an indication of what I thought of this one. So not a surprise that a lot of people tuned in, but maybe a surprise that this is the most watched first episode.
Well, I mean, it's a character that is appeared in, in the first 2 trilogies, the prequel and the original trilogy, certainly. And then, of course, in Clone Wars and numerous other media. So certainly the mystique of Obi-Wan Kenobi is still pretty strong within the fandom. But I also think you can't ignore the fact that it's Kenobi and Vader coming back in a series. I think that was a really huge deal for a lot of people. Getting a Kenobi series, I think, would have done great numbers as well. But I think adding the Vader aspect to it all, Hayden Christensen coming back, James Earl Jones rumored to do the voice, all of that kind of sliding in here made it even more of a must watch for a lot of people. And this is a character that, as I said, in both sets of trilogies, not the sequel trilogy, but in both sets of trilogies, you're able to share this with your son and your grandson or your granddaughter or your daughter or your, whatever you have there. You can share multiple generations of viewing pleasure with your family watching Obi-Wan Kenobi, because everyone has a connection to Kenobi depending on when they discovered him in their lives. So that works on so many levels for them, Disney wise as well. But then you add Vader, and I think that's a massive thing to put it over the top and get it to. So no surprise people went off and watched other things, and this is music to Disney's ears, I imagine, Michael and Shannon, because I mean, the one thing they said from the beginning when they bought it out from George Lucas, is they wanted to streamline everything so that you understood what was canon and what wasn't canon, and that was so that they could have synergy with all the stuff. So the fact that you're watching one thing so you can go and watch other things, that helps them out overall. So it's smart business and also smart artistic decisions being made there and bearing fruit there for Disney Plus.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think that as geeks who cover all the geek stuff, I mean, we know every character and we know what's going on and we know where it falls in the timeline. But whether you're talking about Wanda, Vision, Hawkeye, Mandalorian, Grogu, there's a lot of stuff that as geeks, we understand it. But I think Obi-Wan Kenobi is kind of something that is universally known. Like, you could be not a geek at all and only have peripherally watched Star Wars when you were a kid, and you know who Obi-Wan Kenobi is. He's the old guy that helped Luke on the desert planet. So I do think, sorry about that. My bad.
Okay.
But yeah, I do think that so for most people, this is a great jumping on point. Like Obi-Wan Kenobi, I get it. He's on Tatooine, he's watching Luke Skywalker. Like, you don't have to know the rest of the Star Wars mythology to know that. So I think it is like a really great jumping off point. And the reason they got the big numbers is because they knew they were going to get all the geeks. We're going to watch it. But I think they got more than just the geeks for this.
Yeah. It's kind of the Black Panther effect, where it's like, okay, we know the comic book fans are going to go, but who else are we reaching out to that maybe hasn't watched any of this stuff? They're going to come and take a chance. Or are there casual fans who have not enjoyed watching any of it, or not been, that original trilogy is their jam and nothing else, who will come back to see what Ewan McGregor did? I think, Shannon, you're right. He's universally the most beloved performance coming out of those prequel trilogies. You can debate Hayden, you can debate Natalie Portman, you can even debate Samuel L. Jackson, in my opinion, but you can't debate what he did as Obi-Wan Kenobi, for sure. So
yeah, I mean, I think especially coming out of episode 1, Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson, like, everybody loved Liam Neeson, and we're sorry to see him go at the end of that movie. And who knows, maybe he'll come back in some capacity.
Yeah, it's true. Let's move on to other numbers, Mike. If we're done with this one, okay, let's do this. Move on to some Top Gun Maverick numbers. This was massive. It had the best Memorial Day opening of all time. This film came out here, directed by Joseph Kosinski, obviously the sequel to 1986's Top Gun, starring Tom Cruise, Jennifer Connelly, and Monica Barbaro, Miles Teller, Glenn Powell, a host of other people involved in this. And it did so well, really just kind of blew away what a lot of people were expecting from this sequel. I mean, there were many people who thought there was no way this film was going to do great box office, and somehow, some way, has overcome that stigma because it's such a damn good film. And it had the best Tuesday, or the third best Tuesday in May, after Marvel Avengers Infinity War and the Avengers. So that's really good company to be keeping up there. Also, it is also ahead of Doctor Strange's In the Multiverse of Madness, which made $12.6 million over the weekend here. And here's the thing that's really surprised me. They estimate by the end of today, as we're recording this on a Wednesday, it will have surpassed Top Gun's original total overall gross in 6 days. That is pretty incredible numbers for a film like this. And dare I say it, $1 billion is a possibility in my mind, because people are going to see this movie multiple times, and there's not much competition for it right now. And dropping it over Memorial Day weekend was just genius. So what do you guys think about the box office numbers here? What do you think the ceiling is for these box office numbers?
I mean, it's sort of a return to old school blockbuster movies.
Yeah.
I mean, we live in a time where the perception is, unless it's a superhero, and especially Marvel, that nothing in the theaters is kind of a guarantee. I mean, you have sort of you have your Fast and Furious films, you have Mission Impossible, but a sequel, what, a 34-year-old movie,
1986, something like that.
Sequel to a 34-year-old movie, granted starring Tom Cruise, who is probably the biggest star in the world. I mean, it's the great thing about watching it, because I went and saw it with my wife on Thursday, was the theater was absolutely packed. And the moment that the movie started, like we watched the first one ahead of time. The moment that the movie started, I was just giddy. And in case anyone hasn't seen it, like I won't spoil what happens, but from moment one, the Paramount logo comes up and you just feel like, oh, we're back. And we got to the end of the movie, and I know I had talked with the Vogel and Rocha about this. Like, as we came out of the end, I'm like, I'm not totally sure. I'm like, I liked a lot of it. I'm not totally sure. I went and saw it yesterday by myself in a theater that was just as packed, just as enthusiastic an audience. And I walked out. I was like, yeah, it's great. It's great. And I want to say, like, the difference between, like, with Doctor Strange, like, we came out of Thursday and a lot of people were like, not so sure, where I was like, that was a fun ride. I went and saw it the next week by myself, and the theater was nowhere near packed. Like, it was, wow. It did not have, or it didn't seem to have, based off of that screening, that sort of want to go on that ride again with this movie. Whereas with Top Gun, I mean, I don't know what the next big movie that comes out. What is it, Jurassic?
Jurassic World's coming out.
I will definitely be going to see Top Gun a couple more times, and part of it because it is a great movie and it's really, really well done, but also to experience it with an audience again. And this seems like the type of movie that people are going to see repeatedly.
Yeah, what do you think, Mike? I made $126 million at the domestic box office. Then it's up to about 173. They estimated it'll pass 180 today. So, what do you think about these numbers? Are you surprised? Did you think just because it got reviewed well, it didn't mean necessarily it was going to translate to box office? So, the fact that it did, what do you think about this?
I mean, I think we talked about this a few weeks ago when there was that article about, when do people go to the movies and when do they not? And all studios scratching their head trying to figure it out. And well, we don't know. And audiences have changed post-COVID. And we know they'll come to the big superhero movies, but Doctor Strange had a drop off. And what does this mean? And like we said it then. I was like, people are going to go see good movies. Like if the movie is huge and everybody likes it, everybody's going to go. And I think we said that day, I was like, Top Gun's going to be huge. Yeah. Top Gun, people are going to go see it. I can tell you right now, there is an excitement in the air. People want to go see that movie. And I went Thursday night, to Shannon's point, packed audience. Yeah. I went again. I took my brother and some friends on Sunday night, equally packed audience. People cheering in the movie theater. Like, people are just excited to see it. And yes, is there nostalgia? 100%. Is Tom Cruise one of the most bankable movie stars in the world still to this day? 100%. But there have been nostalgia plays that have failed, and Tom Cruise is not a guarantee at the box office. This movie is just a great fucking movie. It's like Everything Everywhere All at Once. It's a great movie. So like, what is the secret? Why are people going? Because it's great. It really is that good. Yeah. And so look, Hollywood, if Hollywood knew the formula to make sure that every single movie was great, they would do it. There's no formula to it. You never know. Like, art is subjective. Cinema is what cinema is. But pretty much, to Shannon's point, like across the board, all the people that I know that I've seen Top Gun with, that are texting me over the weekend when they went to see it, everyone has the same reaction, which is almost like this this amazed awe. Like I had more than one person go, "Wow, that was a fucking movie," and I was like, "Yeah, that's exactly what it was. Like, it just feels like a movie."
Yeah, and like all three of us have been fans of summer blockbuster movies, and we're always happy when they actually come out and they're good. And then you see people go and see it, because then it almost feels like it brings us back together in a communal kind of experience, even with people who don't know. I mean, I've heard from a couple of people, or actually a few people rather, that they were at screenings and people were coming out who were strangers and they were high-fiving in the hallways after the movie. They were talking with each other about it because they just couldn't believe that the film was that good. I think so many people walking out, because I don't know how many posts I've seen on social media were like, I didn't know what to, I had my arms folded. I didn't want to believe the hype. And then I came out and it surpassed all our expectations. You know, even Kalinowski, I think, made a post about that, saying like, I didn't want to
even Kalinowski.
So, you know, that's a great thing for the movie. And some more information on it. It is Tom Cruise's biggest opening ever of his career. They were trying to say that Austin Powers Gold member counts in his, which is ridiculous to me. But no, Top Gun Maverick is the biggest opening of his career. It beats the Memorial Day Pirates of the Caribbean at World's End. There it is now. The cruise now has 2 films in the top 20 for Memorial Day weekend, if you include Mission Impossible 2, which somehow became one of the highest grossing films he's ever done. And let's see,
it was the doves. It was the doves. It was the doves.
Yeah,
lots of doves in the Mission Impossible 2.
It also opened in the most theaters ever. 4,735 theaters. The biggest number before that was Endgame with 4,662 theaters. So clearly, because there isn't a lot of movies out right now, and the COVID situation, more theaters were open to show the film, but also there must have been high demand to open up all those theaters to be able to put that film in there. So kind of crazy to think about that.
Well, I imagine the theater owners were probably hoping with Doctor Strange that it was going to be a No Way Home Endgame situation where audiences were coming repeatedly, and that's not what happened. I saw Doctor Strange 3 times. First time, absolutely packed. Second one, sparsely populated. The third time, it was like 10 people.
Yeah,
and so the fact that they're kind of clamoring for a big movie to get in their theaters, and the word of mouth was so good. And you think about the fact that this has been done for a while. Like, this was supposed to come out a little while ago. Think about the pressure that Paramount and Tom Cruise could have been under to release it on streaming when we didn't know when movie theaters were going to come out. Like, the fact that they stuck to their guns, because this
Top Guns.
This is the type of movie that you have to see in a theater. Like, you have to hear the roar of those engines.
Why do you encourage him?
That's a quality joke.
I think even Shannon was like, "Sir, that's not a McClung joke. That was a quality joke."
Well, I would say it's a quality McClung joke.
Oh, here we
go. That's like saying jumbo shrimp. It's an oxymoron.
Would you call a moron?
But it's doing so well, and it keeps going. And I think you guys are right. Like, the fact you're going to see it days after it's come out, it's still packed. Those are old school summer blockbuster films, and it's great to see it coming back. And it isn't just Paramount. And I want to make this really clear. Tom Cruise is the one that fought to not let this go to streaming. He fought really, really hard, and he apparently was going. There were rumors that he was going to take Paramount to court to stop them from releasing it in streaming, because he wanted it. He believes very much in theaters. And when I was at CinemaCon, I remember that they were talking about that, how much he fought for the 45-day window as it is now, but also fought to have that film come out in the theaters, and refused to let it go to streaming, and that tells you the strength of his relationship with Paramount. Now, even though a few years ago they kind of railroaded Tom Cruise out of there, he's back with them, and they have a very strong connection with each other. So the man carries weight, ladies and gentlemen, and nothing says box office movie star like being able to make a studio not release a film in streaming because you want to make sure it comes out.
Listen, we all heard Tom Cruise on set yelling at everybody about COVID. Yeah. Even if I was Paramount, I don't want Tom Cruise yelling at me. Like that, you know what you don't want in life? That man mad at you.
Where is Vogel? Come out and get your whooping. Come on, Vogel.
Guys, Tom's on the way in. He's angry. Who are the tallest executives? Get him in there.
He's like, what's his face for that character he played in Tropic Thunder? Oh my God. Imagine that come walking through the streaming. Anyway, so continued success for the film itself. And I spent all day editing my spoiler review, so that'll be up on the channel tomorrow morning. But let's move on to our next thing here. Shannon, I think you're taking it away here.
Trailer. Just one today. A couple of days ago, we got our first look at the Disney Plus feature from Robert Zemeckis and Tom Hanks. We got our first look at Pinocchio. So this is going to come out on Disney Day, September 8th this year. I mean, the Disney live action adaptations of their classic cartoons have been a little bit of a mixed bag. Like we've gotten a couple really good ones, and then we've gotten some other ones.
You mean quality-wise?
Quality-wise, yes. Yeah. Quality-wise, we've gotten some really good ones, and we've gotten some others. But so far, I mean, and this is quick. This is about a minute 40, minute 30, minute 40, something like that. But we get our first look at Tom Hanks as Geppetto, his latest accented role. If you've been going to the movies, you've seen a lot of Elvis trailers where he's sporting his, I think, Dutch accent as Colonel Tom Parker. But with this one, with him dressed up as Geppetto, there is just a sweetness to this trailer that I was kind of like, the whole idea of Robert Zemeckis coming in and doing a live action Pinocchio, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. I mean, this is the CG king. But actually seeing it, I was like, oh, and I didn't grow up a huge Pinocchio guy, but hearing the When You Wish Upon a Star, we get our first glimpse of Cynthia Erivo as the Blue Fairy. This just had sort of a sweet, innocent, magical feeling to it. And this is from someone who's not, a huge fan of that original movie. But I'll throw it to you, gentlemen. What did you all think of our first look at Pinocchio?
Mikey?
Look, I think it looks gorgeous. I mean, Disney definitely doesn't skimp on their live action versions of their animated films. Like, they're all big budget movies. They really go for it. You got Tom Hanks in there. You got Cynthia Erivo in there. I think it looks great. I'm definitely going to watch it. I have a complicated relationship with the live action movie versions of the animated films just because there is always sort of a inherent why. Aside from you want to make the money, why? Like, what are you bringing that's new to this? And I think that where they've been most successful, like I would personally hold up, John's right, financially they're all successful, that's why they keep making them. Like, everybody goes to see them, they're huge hits. But creatively, I feel like they are most successful in the cases of like Cinderella or Jungle Book or even Cruella to a degree, where they really take the story and do something different with it. They add a new level, they add a new layer. And then I think you run into like your Beauty and the Beasts and your Lion Kings, where you're like, this is the animated movie, but just not as good. But you basically are following it beat to beat. So with the Pinocchio trailer, it definitely looks like it is the Disney version. Like, you see Figaro, you see Cleo, you see Geppetto, you see all the beats that you expect to see. So it really just remains to see, is this a straight up, like, I could watch the animated movie and I could watch the live action movie and I can compare shots? Or is this movie going to give us some different layers? Is it more focused on Geppetto? Is it more focused on the relationship between Geppetto and Pinocchio? Because although Geppetto is his father figure, the Disney movie really just focuses more on Pinocchio's adventures, and Geppetto kind of comes in at the end. So they have an opportunity to do some really different stuff. And if they do, I think it'll be a really successful version, or they might not. And so remains to be seen. But yes, the trailer looks everything you said: magical, whimsical, gorgeous, beautiful. So I'm definitely I'm a Disney nerd. I'm obviously going to watch it. So we will see how I feel when I see it.
Yeah, I mean, for me, Zemeckis and Hanks, I immediately think of Polar Express, and I get a little weird about the Uncanny Valley and all. Then,
Polar Express eyes, like they say in Rescue Rangers.
Yeah, exactly. And that film was a little weird to kind of but I understand they were pushing the boundaries. It was very early on in the process of doing those kinds of things. I did like the Christmas Carol with Jim Carrey, that kind of version of it. I did enjoy that kind of approach to it. But so in my mind, I'm like, okay, well, what can Zemeckis do? Do you remember Zemeckis? He hasn't really, kind of struck it big in a while. Welcome to Marwen was horrible. And so you get worried. And then you see the trailer and you're like, wow, okay, this is the Zemeckis that a lot of us remember or grew up with or were charmed by. So if he can capture that magic that he's had in the past, I think this could be a very fun interpretation. And Mike and Shannon, you don't see Pinocchio. You see his arm, but you haven't yet seen the full body, full face of Pinocchio. You see Jiminy Cricket. You see the Blue Fairy with Cynthia Erivo. I mean, Keegan-Michael Key in that outfit looks fantastic. Luke Evans coming in as yet again another Disney villain in a live-action adaptation of a film. So going to be very curious to see what new levels or new beats he has to what he's doing as in his role as villain in the movie. And so I'm very interested to see what we're going to get, but it does feel like they're focusing on Geppetto more, which is something curious that you bring up, Mike, because the trailer is very Geppetto. Hey, very much about Tom Hanks, very
very Geppetto-esque.
It's Geppetto-esque.
It's a Geppetto-esque trailer.
And to his credit, I barely heard an accent. So I'm hoping that there isn't an overt Italian accent, that it's a much more subtle approach to it and what have you, because I would appreciate that from Tom. But of course, Tom continuing his relationship with Disney through Toy Story and other projects. So it makes so much sense. And he's at the perfect time in his life to play this character and kind of bring some new magic to it. And so maybe him and Zemeckis have a magic formula for doing this reimagining. And we shall see, because Guillermo del Toro has one coming out, and the less said about Benigni's Pinocchio, the better. So, I mean, it's interesting how many times people come back to this story. And I guarantee you at some point when they do it again, it'll be a female doll, which will be an interesting exploration of what that would be like to be a real girl. What's that? There might be some real world stuff, conversations that are to be had, which will be really fascinating. So if that interpretation ever comes out, I'll be looking forward to it to see how they can do it with a different gender approach.
Interesting.
Yeah,
Pinocchio. I'm writing that down. I'm making notes. Right. Female version.
Copyright.
Pinocchio. Start outline. Text Shannon after Geek Buddies.
Son of a bitch! Wouldn't you know? All right. Anything more on this, Shan?
No, that's it. Pinocchio comes out on Disney Plus September 8th.
Yeah, day and date, so real close. All right, we're gonna take a quick break, and then we're gonna jump into our main topic here. And that's talking all the stuff that dropped on Star Wars Celebration last weekend. And we'll be right back right after this.
Do 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 do.
Good. That's really good. Hold on, let me bring you back.
I thought I had timed it perfectly.
You were giving me some real Bill Murray Star Wars lounge singer vibes with that one.
Star Wars.
Nothing but Star Wars. Well, so Johnny, you tell us, Johnny, you got to go.
I did.
Tell us all about it.
It's an interesting experience for sure. It wasn't as huge as I've seen it at certain conventions in the past. Certainly a little bit subdued. No criticism, just a little bit more subdued. I think COVID, the numbers are still there. The numbers are still rising. People were a bit hesitant. There was some really good cosplay on the Friday and Saturday. Not so much on Thursday. It was a little kind of hit and miss on the cosplay there. Also, I found the areas to be massive. I didn't think there were as many exhibitors or as many booths, but the stuff we got was really great. There were some fantastic figures, some really great artwork that was there, some nice inventive merchandise that people could enjoy for sure. And but you sense the joy, right? I mean, there's a certain level of obsession with Star Wars that is fascinating to watch on the outside. Look, I love Star Wars, but I had a friend tell me that she was going to quit her job if they didn't let her go see Star Wars Celebration. And that's a level of obsession I don't necessarily possess. but it was nice to be surrounded by people who are obsessed with this galaxy, and you could tell they needed it. Like, they needed it and they wanted it. And being in the huge panel for Lucasfilm, the amount of people that were just so caught up in it, and then later in the other panels as well, even the smaller panels, it was great to see. So in that way, I very much enjoyed it and had a really great experience, kind of taking it at my pace as opposed to doing it like we used to do it way back in the old days, where Shannon and I would sit in Hall H for 15 hours or something. It was madness. But walking the floor was great. As I said, seeing the cosplay was great. Talking to people, talking to fans of the Geek Buddies. It was great. It was so much fun to enjoy for sure.
Now, were you in the hall when they released like the trailers for Andor and the trailers for the Bad Batch? Like, were you with the audience when those dropped?
Yeah, let's talk about that, because that was the Lucasfilm panel. I had to talk my way into that panel because this year with media had to apply for a QPR code, just like people who bought their tickets just to be regular participants had to. So it was a mad scramble to get in that lottery. This year they had a lottery, so not everybody could get in. And they recommended that you submit with a bunch of people because it was easier for them to get like 12 people in than 1 or 2 people in. So interesting little things you discover as you're doing Star Wars Celebration. So with this, I had to talk my way into it, just flashing my badge, and eventually I got in, thank God, and got to sit there and watch it. And it was a hell of an experience. I mean, seeing Ewan McGregor and Hayden Christensen come out to it was like 5,000-6,000 people going insane in that auditorium. And then later when the Andor trailer played, people were just mouth agape at what they had just seen with that Andor trailer. Then getting John Watts coming out to talk about Skeleton Crew. And then what else was with Kenobi, Moses Ingram, and other people coming out. But there was Favreau and Filoni coming out talking Mandalorian and showing the little clip for season 3 of Mandalorian that looks like Game of Thrones Mandalorian, which looked pretty awesome. And then all the stuff that they teased while they were there. And then, of course, the capper, John Williams coming out live to conduct an orchestra to play the Obi-Wan Kenobi theme for the first time ever anywhere in public. Then he did the Imperial March, and then he did the Indiana Jones theme, and out comes Harrison Ford to shake his hand and talk to him and announce that Indy 5 is coming out next year in June, I think. So and Kathleen Kennedy obviously was there too, but so a lot to consume and experience in an hour and a half. And Yvette Nicole Brown, who hosted it, did a really great job of keeping it moving, because artists come out there and they just want to shoot the shit for like an hour without thinking that there are other panels or other people coming out. So, but yeah, what a great experience. What did you guys think of all the trailers and the news that came out of that particular panel? Because that was really their big one. What stood out to you guys? What really appealed to you guys when you were hearing it? Did you watch the trailers? Did you watch the news? What did you guys think?
Yeah, I think coming out of, not being a part of it and just kind of being on the outside and getting information as it was dropping on YouTube or dropping on the different geek websites. Obviously, I think probably one of the biggest things was the Andor trailer.
Yeah.
Just because we got to see that in its entirety. And even though it's not Star Wars, I think the Willow trailer got a lot of play.
Oh, yes.
That
Right.
trailer for the Willow series on Disney Plus just hit all the nostalgia buttons. Obviously, all like the footage of Hayden Christensen and Ewan McGregor being together was great. John Williams composing. But then I think like the little bits of information we got about Skeleton Crew, the John Watts series, the animated Young Jedi Academy, which they've sort of brought up and mentioned, and then obviously in the next couple days, the Tales of the Jedi stuff that Filoni showed, and then the super grainy footage from Ahsoka stuff that they showed, which I know wasn't the big panel, but just kind of taking the weekend as a whole, those were the things that I think resonated the most, that kind of got non-celebration people who weren't there, who were just celebrating from afar, really excited.
Yeah, because Rosario Dawson showed up on the Lucasfilm panel on video and said she couldn't be there. She was shooting scenes, and then she showed up so clearly that was a little bit of a trick or whatever, because I can imagine they flew her overnight to come and show up and do it. Maybe they did. I don't know. It just would have surprised me.
She's filming Ahsoka. They don't really have to fly her. They just have to drive her down to Anaheim.
Oh, all right. Fair enough. I thought they were filming that overseas, but I guess maybe they are filming it here. But yeah, what did you think, Shannon? Because we did get also news about Tales of the Jedi. We got news that the Star Wars Vision Season 2 is coming. Liam Neeson is going to be in Tales of the Jedi. As Mike mentioned, the Ahsoka. People went crazy that there was Hera Syndulla in the footage from behind.
Ezra.
and Ezra, right, and Sabine having, Sabine and my friend Ash Crossan moderated that panel and got to bring out and introduce the actress who's playing Sabine. So, what stood out to you from the whole weekend of news and what have you?
I mean, Andor was the big one.
Yeah.
Was the big one for me because we've discussed like with Obi-Wan sort of the limitations of the volume. Like it's amazing technology, but you can't do everything. And like watching the trailer for Andor, that was like, oh, this looks like a real populated Star Wars world. And just like the amount of exteriors, or maybe it was the volume, the amount of what appeared to be exterior shots.
Yeah,
it was just really, really cool to see. And also, I love the look at the Bad Batch that we got. That it's clear that there has been a time jump.
Yeah,
Omega looks a little bit bigger. They've finally given her a helmet. But also the Bad Batch are rocking different uniforms now. They they traded out the red for kind of an orange. And thinking back to just how gorgeously designed and animated that show was, getting to see a continuation of it really has me jazzed. And also I'm crossing my fingers that we'll get the return of Cad Bane in that as well, because it seems like we might not see him anymore in live action. I would really like to see that character again, because Corey Burton's Cad Bane is just so much fun to watch.
Yeah, Mike, I mean, Jude Law being announced for Skeleton Crew is really interesting, because already Skeleton Crew was drawing comparisons to Prodigy, as we mentioned, I think a week or two ago on the show. I mean, I see you call Kate Mulgrew, I'll raise you Jude Law. Did you like that idea? That aspect?
I mean, look, the Jude Law's great. Jude Law can do whatever. I don't blame him for Secrets of Dumbledore. He's doing his best. So Jude Law is Jude Law, and he's great. This Skeleton Crew just in general intrigues me because it's just so different. I mean, look, we're all nerds and we love it. We just talked about Obi-Wan is the biggest thing on Disney Plus because we all know Obi-Wan Kenobi. We know part of what that story is. Getting to see Vader. Even with Andor, like we've met Cassian Andor in Rogue One. We get to see that. Like for me, part of the Andor trailer, and we can dive into it and talk about it in a bit more detail, but the amount of Mon Mothma we got, which is another character that if you're a Star Wars nerd, you know. So Star Wars does so well banking on existing characters. But Skeleton Crew is just this really mysterious, shiny object that they're putting in front of us, which is, hey, here's a story about some kids and some shit goes down.
Yeah. Post
Return of the Jedi, kind of in the era of Mandalorian, and that could be literally anything. Like there's no rules around it. There's no, oh, well, that doesn't really make sense because in New Hope they said this, but then in Clone Wars this happened. So like these are brand new characters. So there's something very, very exciting about Skeleton Crew to me.
Yeah, agreed. And let's dive into the Andor trailer, because I mean they announced that it was going to be 12 episodes per season for 2 seasons. I think the second season is going to cover 4 years, the 4 years leading up to Rogue One, and the first season I think is going to cover the first 2 years where he becomes this rebel and transitions into becoming the rebel. And the last scene will lead up to the final moment before Rogue One starts. So very interesting, kind of similar to what Rogue One did, leading all the way up to the beginning of New Hope. So interesting stuff. But there was a lot here, Diego Luna talked about the fact that he wanted this was a migrant story, and certainly from the beginning, you sense that this is almost like one of those native cultures that you would see in South America, seeing this, Empire ship, I think an Empire ship in flames going across the sky. We're using the steel drums to wake people up. That feels very from the Mideast, so Middle East. So a lot of interesting cultures are being showcased or displayed here as we watch this, and then we see the Empire showing up. We hear Diego saying, the Empire's grown fat, and we see these 2 portly dudes drinking their wine dressed in Empire outfits. But we also see this is the height, what it feels like, of the Empire, with the richest looking Empire I've ever seen, including Genevieve O'Reilly looking gorgeous in the gowns that she's wearing and in the conversations that she's having, that she has to kind of smile and say the right thing or else they'll come after her. So you talk about the Skeleton Crew having kind of a wide open base to explore, but it also kind of feels that way with Andor, because some stuff is known about this period, but not a lot that's canon. So they seem to have more. They seem like they're going to have a lot of room to explore this. And 12 episodes a season, you guys must be surprised by that, considering they've been 6
Yeah.
so far starting out, or 6 or 7.
Yeah, it's much larger than what we have experienced thus far. And the whole Mon Mothma angle, talking about the dresses, this is kind of an area that in live action we haven't gotten a lot of material, and I think again, very fertile ground for storytelling. The political intrigue that has to happen behind the scenes when you're organizing a rebellion. The fact that you're talking about, like, she has to say the right thing. She has to do, like, you know, we might see a little bit of that with Jimmy Smits in Obi-Wan. Right. But watching how this rebellion, watching how it builds, not just on the battlefield, but also behind the scenes, like knowing, you know, the people that have seen what the Empire has become and how it has to be taken down, and it's not going to be taken down overnight.
Yeah, and like, because they've said, I mean, I think in the Daily Variety article they said it, that the show is kind of a two-hander. Like, it's a Cassian Andor and Mon Mothma story, and I think the trailer really reflects that, because you get equal play. Like, you see, to your point, this planet that looks sort of like a less technologically advanced planet, where you see some of, like, the sparks of rebellion happening, but then you see Mon Mothma on what looks like Coruscant, which is where she would be in the Senate, and doing her stuff. And what's really interesting about that is, as you're looking at this story of these two characters who are so different and are both dealing with the Empire in different ways, you have Cassian Andor, who, he's, like you said, this is very much a migrant story. It's about a character that was displaced. It's about an immigrant who is struggling with this huge governmental force that is upending his life. And on the other end of it, you have Mon Mothma, who is part of that governmental force. Like, we know she's going to start the rebellion, but she is part of, like, her and Bail Organa, like, they are currently in the Senate doing their best. Like, they take your pick of which senators you like in American politics right now, but they are in Congress doing their best while things are going poorly for people. And so seeing how these two people come to the conclusions they come to and come together, like, to me, that was what was most exciting about this trailer.
Anything more to say about, like, any vehicles or ships or anything that we saw there that kind of would be cool to see in Star Wars that we hadn't seen before?
No, I mean, not off the top of
or
my
locations
head.
Or sets or anything like that.
It's less about any specific locations or vehicles, and more about, and I think that's what we said about Obi-Wan, but this doesn't look like a TV show.
Yeah.
This is a feature.
This is
just a 12-part or 24-part with both seasons. Like, this just looks like a feature. Like, we are stepping outside of, oh, here's a really fun TV series. Like, this looks just huge. And Willow to a degree as well. I mean, I want to talk about the Rebel stuff and all this, so we don't talk a ton about Willow, but both of them just had these big feels to them where you were like, oh yeah, like I am in for these rides.
Yeah, I was really surprised by the Willow trailer. I'm not, I'm not a Willow. It's not that I'm not a Willow fan. I liked it when I saw it. I just don't have the emotional connection that some people seem to have to Willow. But watching that trailer, I was like, oh man, I want to go back into this world immediately. And I almost went home and tried to find it on streaming to watch it. So I will definitely.
It's not hard to find. You can find it on Disney Plus.
You're right. You're right. I just didn't find the time.
Where could it be? I don't know.
You know what? I watched the George Carlin documentary. But let's move to the Mandalorian, because this is going to be really interesting. I don't know if you guys got a chance to see any of the grainy footage or any of the footage.
I didn't see any of the grainy footage. I kept kind of waiting for them to reveal something like official, and then they never did. And then when I went to go back, I was like, okay, fuck it, I'll watch the grainy footage. Most of it was taken down, and I couldn't find it. So please tell me about this footage, oh great one.
I mean, this is such a fascinating approach to the season. And as I said, it looks like Game of Thrones. It looks like they're going next level. Like you mentioned with Cassian Andor, it looks theatrical. This looks like they understand what the power of what the Mandalorian can be. And now they're going to this whole nother almost operatic level with this series, because the shots of Bo-Katan sitting on the empty throne on Mandalore, it looks like there's just, we know from the Clone Wars, we've seen that room and her just sitting there in the darkness, essentially barely lit. And Mando shows up and they have a very tense back and forth about the fact that she still wants the dark saber and that he has it, and all of this that goes on with them. And then he keeps talking about how he needs to go get purified. in the waters of Mandalore. There's more with Grogu. And, there's a line where Bo-Katan says to Grogu, "Oh, you think your dad was the only Mandalorian?" after she's kicked some ass. So there's going to be a lot here that we're going to get between them as we go forward. And the Armorer calls out the Mandalorian for willingly taking off his helmet more than once, and says to him, "You are excommunicated from Mandalore." So it's like there's a real kind of journey of faith here, kind of like we're seeing with Kenobi, and probably we'll see with Andor, this journey of faith that's going on, and where is he going to land? So it's very huge it's very huge what they're doing here with this season 3 of The Mandalorian. It's very exciting.
Like, to me, the two things that I'm most curious about, and like this all sounds great to me, which is one, the whole history of Mandalore has pretty much just existed in animation. I mean, until season 2 of Mandalorian when Bo-Katan showed up. But like, you can go through Clone Wars and you can see Duchess Satine running a peaceful Mandalore after the planet's been ravaged, and how they used to be very warlike. And you know about Death Watch up on the moon and wanting to be more warlike. And then you see this whole process, and then you go to Rebels. And you see after the Empire has completely just wiped the floor with them, and you see all that stuff going on with Sabine and the Darksaber, and this all leads right into this. And so Mandalorian season 3 just feels like it's the animated series brought to life, which I think is really interesting. And the other part that I think is interesting is most of season 1 and season 2 of Mandalorian was built around Grogu was the engine.
Yeah.
It was I have to protect this guy. I have to get him to a Jedi. I have to do this. And then we ended with him going away with Luke. But because we got a little Mandalorian, 2.0 in Boba Fett, that kind of resolved Grogu's story. He made his choice. He's like, "Hey, Luke, I'm good. I'm going to go hang with my boy. I love him so much." And now they're together. But so Grogu doesn't have... There's obviously a lot more story to Grogu, but there's not a specific thing that Mando has to do with Grogu. It's no longer the lone wolf and cub sort of structure. So how Grogu is going to tie into what's going on with Din and Bo-Katan and the Darksaber and Mandalore, that's all really interesting to me as well.
Yeah, and on this panel, Shannon, Pedro Pascal was on. Katie Sackhoff, of course, plays Bo-Katan. Carl Weathers, Grief Karga. There's great shots of Grief Karga, who is now running that city, and he's got the wealth in his look. Emily Swallow there, who plays the Armor, she was on the panel. Tamora Morrison, Giancarlo Esposito. They also introduced Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder, who played Din Djarin on the set. But they also announced that Amy, and you also saw in the trailer rather, that Amy Sedaris is going to come back as Peli Motto, and Omid
Shannon's favorite.
Omid Abdi is back as Dr. Pershing. He is all over the footage they showed at a celebration. And also, Tim Meadows is coming in playing some character here in this, which is going to be fascinating. And also the great shot. They had a great shot of a tree full of Kowakian monkey lizards, Salacious B. Crumb's species, and it was unsettling and hilarious at the same time.
That's awesome.
Shot they had. And Babu Frick is going to be back.
I heard about Babu Frick.
Yeah, so...
Babu Frick, I'll accept. I don't love me some Rise of Skywalker, but I will allow Babu Frick to extend his life beyond Rise of Skywalker.
Hey, Babu Frick.
Saber, you got the dark saber. What do you think, Shannon, of all of this for Mandalorian season 3?
I mean, the thing that I'm really curious about is, the end of season 2. It was so emotional as for fans. We got to see Luke Skywalker, which someone on this screen called. I won't say who, but getting to see Luke Skywalker. But then for our characters, Din saying goodbye to Grogu, that was such an emotional ending. But you have to think, what happened the moment that the X-Wing took off and Din still has the Darksaber, and Bo-Katan saying, "I want that." Right. So it's going to be really curious to find out how that situation resolved itself, because Giancarlo Esposito was very clear, you can't just give it to her. She has to. She got to kill you for it. She's got to beat you in combat. But yeah, I mean, the whole idea of this sort of Game of Thrones season, going to this wrecked planet, this wrecked kingdom, and trying to reclaim your honor. And yeah, it's really exciting, and it's coming out. It's 2023, right? It's not the end of this
next
year.
year. Yeah, next year.
Yeah, I mean, I'm super excited to see it, and to see, like, is there a possibility that the Mandalorian and the Ahsoka series, are they going to cross paths at all?
Yeah, it's certainly possible. I mean, sure, if she showed up during the Mandalorian, that just makes all kinds of sense to me, that she'd have some kind of return visit.
Well, she has a relationship with both of them.
Yeah, there you go. Absolutely great point, Michael. And what's going to be interesting too is you've got two people who are displaced, both Bo-Katan and the Mandalorian. Essentially, I mean, the Mandalorian excommunicated essentially by his cult sect there of the Mandalorians, and Bo-Katan kind of without the Darksaber, feeling displaced, needing that. So is this going to be a two-hander, as you mentioned with Andor, Mike? Is this the Bo-Katan Mandalorian kind of two-hander here for this season? In a way, Grogu now, as you mentioned, Mike, which is really astute of you, he no longer is someone that needs to be saved. Now he's the companion for the Mandalorian when he's going on his journey. So it's not about Grogu anymore. This is about the Mandalorian. Yeah. He's along for the ride, which is going to be great.
I think to your point, if Pershing is all over the trailer, I mean, then clearly there's still a role for Grogu to play, because the Empire still needs to make their Palpatine clones for Rise of Skywalker. So like I'm sure that is a thread that will still be carried through, but it does feel like it's going to be much more focused on the Mandalore side of the story in the season.
Where are the witches with the scissors from Hercules to cut that thread? I'd like to see that. All right. Okay, so let's move on to the Ahsoka series real quick. I mean, what do you guys think about the fact that we're getting so much here with Natasha Liu, Bordizzo being introduced as Sabine Wren? We're getting Ezra, we're getting Thrawn, and it is going to come out in 2023. So that's pretty shocking as well. So quickly, it will pick up after the events of Rebels, with Ahsoka searching for Ezra and attempting to hunt down Thrawn. There were shots of Sabine looking on at her painted mural of the Ghost Crew, as well as what looks to be Harrison Dula. So what's the level of excitement you all have for this after hearing about what it's going to be about? And maybe either one of you got a chance to see some of the grainy footage.
I saw a little bit of the grainy, very shaky camera footage. I got to see the head tails of Hera, and the footage was too grainy and too shaky for me to figure out if that was Mary Elizabeth Winstead or not.
Good call.
I'm pretty sure it is.
You just couldn't get a sense of the height. You know, she's a tall woman, but also, like, they haven't announced who's going to play Ezra, right? Like,
right.
I know that the assumption, the smart money at one point was on Mina Masood, right?
Yeah,
from Aladdin. But that hasn't been announced yet. But yeah, dude. Hearing the crowd's reaction the moment that Hera walked onto screen, that's all I need. That's all I need right there. Like that was an Infinity War Comic-Con level reaction.
Yeah.
I already was most excited for Ahsoka. Like that's already the thing that I'm most excited for, just because of Ahsoka.
Yeah.
And assumed that at least part of the story was going to be, we're picking up, there's a whole story thread here. Like you look at that last minute of Rebels and you're like, well, yeah, like what happens? There's more here. But like the fact that this sort of confirms that this series is just the next season of Rebels, with live action actors, like I could not be more excited than I am for what is going. Like I will absolutely lose all of my shits. Like it's just too much. I'm so excited. I can't even deal with it.
Yeah. I'm excited too, because I mean, I loved Rebels, and that was the one thing that was consistent for me. While I wasn't a big fan of the sequel trilogy, although I did like Force Awakens, Rebels was consistently good for me after I think the midway point of the first episode. It was just great all the way through. And so getting a chance to go back and hang out with these characters in a live action format is very, very exciting. And I don't think they've announced Thrawn. Did they announce Thrawn? Who's playing Thrawn? Did they say? So a lot of mystery still around this thing, and it's coming out in 2023, which, by the way, we're only 6 months away from. Let that sink in for a second, you know? So yeah, exactly. So fascinating stuff. All right, let's move on to Bad Batch, guys. I mean, as Shannon mentioned, the new armor got a helmet here for Omega. Omega's older. So we've had some jump in time here. We do see from the trailer that they're dialing into not wanting to just be these kind of mercenaries. They actually might want to be picking a side here, or moving towards picking a side and joining the rebellion. We see possibly Commander Cody. We see Scorch. So what did you guys think of this trailer? It was only a minute, a teaser trailer, but what stood out for you guys?
Go for it, Vogel.
I just love that. And look, Andor is this. I think Obi-Wan Kenobi is a little bit this. Obviously, Rogue One is this. Rebels, it's in the title, but that we just there's an entire rebellion when we get to A New Hope. There's an entire group there's military people. They've got ships. They've got soldiers. They've got plans. They're going to fight. We get to Hoth. We see battles. We get to Endor. We know because they've said it that Rex fought at the Battle of Endor.
Right.
There's an entire thing. So watching these characters kind of go through this journey, but kind of knowing that, I think that we're seeing something where these guys could ostensibly go all the way. The Bad Batch and Omega, maybe they were on Endor. We don't know. So just kind of seeing these characters go from this, we were soldiers in the Clone Wars, to we were displaced and we kind of became mercs for a while, and now we're figuring things out. And, just even in Bad Batch season 1, just the little bit that we got of Rex and seeing that he was already sort of organizing people and doing stuff. And so just watching them sort of become soldiers for the rebellion is where it seems like they're going. I think it's a really fun journey.
And you think sorry, go ahead.
No, go for it.
I was just saying, do you think they've moved Crosshair out of being the villain? Because it seems like they're teasing a much bigger villain in season 2, and we do see Crosshair possibly with Commander Cody in one of the shots. So do you think that we're moving away from that and therefore giving them more of an impetus to join one side over the other?
Well, Commander Cody, when last we saw him, was still pretty much on Order 66 side.
Yeah.
So when we saw Commander Cody, he wasn't fighting to save any Jedi. He was on the other end of things. So I do think that even if he is with Crosshair, I think that Crosshair has a ways to go. Will Crosshair ultimately become a hero? Definitely very possible. That would be a great arc for him, but I think he's not there yet for sure.
Okay. Shannon, thoughts on this?
Yeah, agreed. I think he's not with the Batch right now. He's not with his brothers. He's not with his sister Omega. That would be my guess, that is going to be a progression. But also the fact that Sid's still around. I love the fact that we're gonna get to hear Rhea Perlman. And one of the things I'm most excited for, and he has not told me this one way or another, but is the return of Vice Admiral Rampart, who is voiced by my buddy Noshir Dalal, who I thought did such a great job, and he's such a talented voice actor. But I just love the fact that with that time jump, Omega is becoming more than just the heart of the team. She is an actual capable soldier now. And I'm crossing my fingers that at some point we see an energy bow pop up in one of our live action series.
Oof. Yeah, that's certainly a possibility. Also, people are speculating that young Wookiee Jedi we saw is Jedi Padawan Gungi. Do you guys think that's Gungi?
100%.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it looks like Gungi.
It talks like Gungi. It smells like Gungi.
And look, I'm thrilled.
Gungi.
I'm thrilled Gungi's still doing his thing. Thank God.
Oh man, there was so much. Also, they announced Star Wars Visions 2. Really, that's coming back. You're both in animation. Certainly, Star Wars Visions kind of pushed the boundary of Star Wars animation out into some new, interesting areas. It didn't 100% work, but I think it worked for the most part, at least on my end. Watching them, are you guys excited about Star Wars Visions 2 coming?
I'm curious if there will be. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Shannon.
No, I was going to say I'm curious if there will be any continuation of the stories that we saw in season. Because definitely that black and white. Yeah, that one.
I want more. The Ninth Jedi, you could do an animated feature and I'd be good. I would be in on that movie. I love it. It's so good. I've watched it so many times. So yeah, that's a good question. I didn't think about that, Shannon, but you're right. Is some of Vision season 2 going to be a continuation of some of these stories? Because some of them were really compelling universes or compelling characters, or is this just going to be a whole nother grab bag of new Visions? Which I think would both be good. I think between Bad Batch season 2, Star Wars Visions, then the Tales of the Jedi stuff that they showed a bunch of, and then the mention of this Young Jedi Academy, which is definitely a younger age Star Wars show, but is about a bunch of Padawans during the and younglings during the High Republic.
Yeah.
So it's another show in addition to the Acolyte that's going to take place in that High Republic era. And that High Republic era, if you've read any of the novels or the comics or anything, there's just a ton of really, really young Jedi in a time when it was actually way cooler to be a young Jedi. So I think between all of those, there's just, in addition to all the amazing live action stuff, and we keep talking about, oh my God, we get to see this animated character in live action, we get to see this animated character in live action, but it's nice to see that they're not abandoning the animation either, and we're still getting so many really neat and distinctive stories in the animation side as well.
Yeah, and the second version of Star Wars Visions is coming out in spring of 2023, so we're not that far away from it, and it's going to be much more international, much more global. It'll have creative teams from Japan, India, the UK, Ireland, Spain, Chile, France, South Africa, and California involved in creating these things. So there you go. What an interesting amount of global flavor to go into these animation. Will we see animation styles that are uniquely, let's say, Spanish or uniquely Chilean or uniquely French or uniquely South African? That or Irish even, that excites me. An Indian anime, that excites me to hear to see those points of views on Star Wars.
Yeah, the California episode is all going to be about traffic on intergalactic freeways.
I mean, that's basically Coruscant. So yes. And then I think in just seeing on Twitter and stuff, I think people's response to knowing that in this Tales of the Jedi series, we get to see young Ahsoka, young Ahsoka, before she goes to the Jedi Temple. We get to see a young Count Dooku when he was a Jedi still. We get to see a young Qui-Gon Jinn, that we're going to get these stories that really fill out some of the backstory of these other characters who have become so beloved because of Clone Wars. That is something that I didn't know was coming that I'm so excited to check out.
Yeah, and with Tales of the Jedi, having Neeson coming back to voice Qui-Gon is going to be so much fun to hear his voice once again.
Didn't they say he's coming back to voice, but also his son is doing Qui-Gon's voice? So the fact that both of them are doing, that's really cool too.
I agree. I just kind of what we're seeing with Val Kilmer's son, who has done his voice for that Val documentary, and I think he was involved in getting his voice for Top Gun Maverick.
I think so,
it's kind of interesting to have all that through this thing. But I want to go to Shannon on this. Shannon, John Williams, Indiana Jones 5, Shannon, it's coming. Yeah, were you excited about this? Did you like the logo? I know this is I know we're talking Star Wars Celebration, but this was part of it. Did you like the logo? Did you like seeing Harrison come out? And are you excited that there's finally a date for this thing dropping?
I absolutely loved that still. I mean, I think my relationship with Indiana Jones, mainly because of the fourth chapter, is somewhat similar to Vogel's take on the Jurassic franchise. It's no. But then the moment you see something, the moment that you get that little taste, I saw that photo. I'm like, shit, yep, back in.
Yeah.
But the fact that I'm really curious how it's going to look, not through the lens of Spielberg. I mean, this is something that could go one of two ways. But the fact that it's James Mangold and, he's coming off, such an incredible film with Logan. 310 to Yuma.
Ferrari. That was good.
Ford versus Ferrari. 310 to Yuma was on the other day, and I watched just a little bit of that, and I was like, God, I really hope he nails this. I really, really hope so. And, we are, I rewatched Captain America, the First Avenger recently for something, and seeing Toby Jones and knowing that Toby Jones is going to be popping up as well. I mean, on paper and with that one still, I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm so excited. I'm cautiously optimistic because there has not been a whole lot of times that I've read something on the internet and my heart has dropped. But the first time I read a headline for a Kingdom of the Crystal Skull test screening review when it said, "Is this the movie you feared?" and my heart dropped. So cautiously optimistic.
And you know what's crazy about Star Wars Celebration to wrap up our discussion? The next one's in April in London. It's insane. I mean, we're not even getting a chance to recover from this one. Disney is already jumping into another one in April. I'm definitely going to apply, and I'm definitely going to try to go for sure to see it. And maybe the Geek Buddies should apply and try to go, and then we could figure out lodging or whatever. But covering it would be a lot
London
of fun.
in April, you say?
Yeah. I feel like you're saying something. What's saying something? But yeah, so the Indiana Jones 5, June 30th on 2023. So that's when it's coming out. Any wrap up? Anything before? Any more to say here as we wrap up our discussion?
Just kind of reiterating what you said. I mean, we've all been Star Wars fans our whole lives. Yeah. And there was really dry spells, to your point, where people were still celebrating Star Wars. Yeah. People have always loved Star Wars, whether you loved the novels or the comic books or the collectible figures. Like, there has never been a time where you went to a comic book convention or went to Comic-Con where there wasn't something Star Wars to be excited about, like even if it was a very small thing. And so just the fact that we're living in an era right now where, listen, you made it through the deserts of Tatooine and you are living well right now as a Star Wars fan. There's so much to be excited about. And even if they don't knock it out of the park every time, not everything is going to be every single person's cup of tea. Rise of Skywalker, not my cup of tea. I still like Babu Frick, and I still love Star Wars. And so with as much as they have coming out, if you love A Galaxy Far, Far Away, there is sure to be something that is going to make you really happy.
Fair enough. Maybe you're not. Okay, there we go. All right. Let's get out of here. Thank you so much for joining us for this wonderful episode of the Geek Buddies. We appreciate it madly. Shannon, what do we have to tell them?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow us on social media, on Twitter, it's at @geek_buddies, on Instagram at @the_geek_buddies. If you'd like to follow me on social media, on Twitter, it's at Shannon_McClung, on Instagram at Shannon the Geek Buddy. If you would like to follow Mr. Vogel, it is at MKToon. If you would like to follow Mr. Rocha, it is at The Rocha Says. I was looking at the camera. I got messed up.
Mikey?
Well, if you like our usually scintillating conversation, or if you like whatever it was Shannon just did, we would like you to keep hanging on with the Geek Buddies. And here's what you guys can do for us. Definitely hit the like button below. Subscribe to Johnny's Outlaw Nation page. Check out all the amazing content he's got over there. There is a ton of it. He is a busy, busy man. Let us know what you thought about everything in the comments below. Like, what are you most excited about for Star Wars Celebration? Where do you think they're nailing it? Where do you think there's something to be desired? Like, let us know your thoughts below. If you're listening to us on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or anywhere podcasts are available, leave us some stars and leave us some comments. It helps us go up in the rankings so more people can find us. And as always, the best thing that you guys can do is retweet this video, post it on your socials, and tell all of your friends to hang out with your buddies, the Geek Buddies.
Thank you all so much. Of course, big shout out to Carbon Health, who powers and sponsors the Geek Buddies. Thank you so much. Go to carbonhealth.com and go find out if they've got any clinic near you, or if you need some care, they've got virtual care that's available as well. And sometimes if they've got a clinic that's not that busy, they do day of appointments. And that's really important when healthcare stuff pops up and you need to see someone immediately. They might be able to help you. If you've got COVID testing issues, you want to go get tested, or you want to get some of those testing packs, they have them there physically at the Carbon Health clinic locations. There's 100 plus locations all over the country, 50 plus locations in California alone. And if you want to download the app, go and get the app for Carbon Health and put it on your phone so you can have a doc in your pock. All right. Thank you all so much. We love you madly, and we'll talk to you next time with another brand new episode from the
Geek
Buddies.